In this research project, I looked at the effects of technological advancement on the level of greenhouse gas emissions in OECD countries. Greenhouse gases trap heat in the atmosphere and reflect it back to Earth, which warms Earth's surface. This heating of the Earth, known as global warming, leads to more extreme weather events such as wildfires, hurricanes, and droughts. Greenhouse gas emissions are also responsible for poorer air quality. A recent study published in the Journal of Environmental Research identifies that air pollution released from the burning of fossil fuels caused nearly 1 in 5 deaths globally in 2018. To combat global warming, world leaders are investing millions into innovative technologies such as renewable energy sources like solar energy. In order to determine the relationship between technological advancements and greenhouse gas emissions, I decided to run several regressions on many countries in the OECD from 1995 to 2015. For these regressions, I used gross domestic spending on R&D to represent technological innovation. I also included other factors in the level of greenhouse gas emissions, which are population, household disposable income, and environmental policy stringency. It is important to note that for some of the variables, there was quite a bit of missing data, which forced me to reduce the number of years and number of countries in the analysis. The graph in the lower left portion of the poster shows the amount of greenhouse gas emissions for the OECD as a whole from 1995 to 2015. I included the US and Russia, which are two of the world's largest economies in the world, in the graph as well to provide some context. The graph shows that greenhouse gas emissions were relatively constant from 1995 to 2015. The first three regressions I ran included the other variables other than gross domestic spending on R&D, which are population, household disposable income, and environmental policy stringency index. Looking at the results, in all three regressions, the variables proved to be significant determinants of the level of greenhouse gas emissions. The fourth regression I ran included gross domestic spending on R&D, as well as the other determinants. In this regression, there was a significant positive relationship between population and greenhouse gas emissions at the 0.1% significance level. There was a significant negative relationship between environmental policy stringency index and greenhouse gas emissions at the 5% significance level, and there was a significant positive relationship between gross domestic spending on R&D and greenhouse gas emissions at the 0.1% significance level. I found this result quite surprising because I expected that as spending on R&D increases, greenhouse gas emissions would decrease. A possible explanation for this could be that spending on R&D was not separated between spending towards environmentally friendly technologies and other spending. So the majority of spending for R&D in this dataset could be devoted to purposes other than environmentally friendly innovations. Based on these results, it would be more beneficial for countries to increase environmental policy as opposed to spending on R&D if they aim to reduce greenhouse gas emissions.